In a biblical context, justification is a judicial act where God declares a sinner just as if they had never sinned. This ruling zeroes out a massive deficit in an instant. This legal declaration stands independent of human effort or subjective feelings. It is an objective decree. Romans 5 presents a staggering claim. While the law exposes the depth of human sin, where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. Grace expands to overwhelm the offense. A pardon this absolute, granted to those who did nothing to earn it, creates a tension that many struggle to resolve. If God's favor increases to cover every wrongdoing, does this create a legal loophole for the believer? If the debt is always covered, one might assume that grace is a divine license to act without regard for consequences. The Apostle Paul anticipated this. His response is blunt: banish the thought. Resolving this paradox requires a closer inspection of the specific mechanics involved in the moment of justification. The paradox vanishes when we see that justification is the first step in a sequence that replaces the believer's spiritual lineage. We distinguish between individual sins and the singular sin nature we inherit. This old Adam trait is a lineage of corruption from the first man. We break rules because we're born into this inherited state of rebellion. Solving a problem embedded in one's nature requires a drastic measure: the death of that nature. The Greek word baptizo means to be totally engulfed. Here, it describes an object being completely immersed and swallowed up by a surrounding force. When someone believes, the Holy Spirit engulfs them into Christ's death, identifying them with his sacrifice. God's solution to human corruption bypasses behavior modification. He instead executes the root cause. Consider a guilty murderer who dies in his cell the week before his trial begins. The trial ends immediately. The law has no jurisdiction over a corpse, and you cannot prosecute a dead man. In the mind of God, your old Adam was crucified and put to death. It has lost its legal dominion over you. Nature mirrors this process. A kernel of wheat must fall into the ground and die before it produces a new green shoot. The old sin nature is buried to ensure the believer is raised with a new nature. Justification marks a transfer of kingdoms. The believer is now alive from the dead. This creates a unique form of freedom. Before this shift, humans are slaves to their inherited nature, possessing less free will than they realize. Only after the old Adam is legally dead can true free will be activated. Paul calls on believers to reckon themselves dead to sin, to arrive at a conscious conclusion based on these legal facts. Believers no longer live under the severe demands of the religious law. They exist entirely under grace. This status provides the freedom to choose. We can yield our lives to this new nature rather than serving a nature that has already been executed. Grace is not a license to do wrong. Instead, absolute forgiveness removes the motive for rebellion and provides the power to do good.